We just got a new subscriber. You want to tell your buddy about this or no? Oh, I see. All right, we are live.
Oh shit.
Feels good to be back.
Yeah. It's weird to have been in a void after we were getting a little bit of steam there. But such is life sometimes.
Give me 1 sec. I just got a pop up.
We've already been taken down.
Not quite. All right. So we have been gone for a little while. Let's see. So we ran, for anyone that doesn't know, we ran a bit of a social experiment. We had 5 pilots. Why don't you kind of tell people why you wanted to enter into doing this podcast with me?
Well, for me, it was really pretty straightforward, actually. Although it seems like something that people might assume would be more layered. But when you and I met, it didn't really take us very long to develop this rapport that we could tell in each other that we were the kind of people that would just plunge ourselves into political deviancy and conversation and trying to add layers to the discussion that we both kind of met eye to eye on in terms of feeling that was void in a lot of political media, while also simultaneously acknowledging that void is what's causing a lot of harm in things like media literacy and political literacy. So when you proposed the idea originally, I thought, well, one, this is something I've never done before, and it's something I've always kind of kicked around the idea of doing. But two, I think it would be a really good opportunity to, one, sort of test the mettle of ideas against somebody that's not myself in my own, sort of private life, but also to really put something out there that I believed in, which was that there was a better approach to take to political discussion, especially on social media of all platforms, because it's currently being dominated by really like clickbaity, reactionary, almost rage bait types of algorithm modification. And that's the kind of media that I think that does a really large disservice to a culture that you want to see improve, especially one that you want to see be better advocates for their future, and especially when you consider it for things like political policy. That's really kind of what roped me in, and the fact that you were so on board with that made it such an easy decision for me to make.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed too is we don't agree on everything. There's some things we outright disagree on, but we always had an interest in what one another was saying, and we also could engage in these really in-depth conversations without getting ass mad at each other, which was something that is like unheard of nowadays. Probably, like you said, because the industry, and make no mistake, politics and social media as an industry has been overtaken by like outrage culture.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been such a ever growing issue surrounding American political sort of engagement and media sort of manipulation. And I think that because it is a concerted effort, I really was excited to have an opportunity to have discussions that felt fresh. I mean, I have other people in my life that I've had that level of engagement with, so I really appreciate it. And you can feel a tangible difference when you're having a conversation on that level versus when you're having a screaming match with somebody who started the discussion with no intention on hearing your side of things, critically analyzing them, and then throwing back their version of those opinions and those interpretations. Um, and I think it's something that you just see a glaring lack of, um, especially with sort of this like I said earlier, this new wave of the way we consume political discussions, whether it be in chopped up snippets, short form, or like you said, rage bait, outrage media. It's just something that I think, even though it definitely gets a lot better engagement to do those things, when you turn it into an entertainment money making enterprise, you really dilute the product, and you dilute its importance. And we're seeing the results of tangible real world issues that are manifesting as a result of that culture change.
Yeah, I couldn't put it better myself. Um, so for anybody that's like a new viewer, I would encourage you to go back and listen to our pilots. They were kind of like tests we ran. We wanted to kind of figure out what specific topics mattered to us and how we would kind of create a format around those. We covered everything from like the Trump Biden first debate where Biden melted on screen, the Boeing whistleblower who clearly offed himself in a parking lot,
The self Luigi.
yeah, the first TikTok ban. We had a kind of a mock debate about that. Yeah, the bridge collapse, Marjorie Titan Green being a horrific human being in any number of ways, Trump's like cryptocurrency, the Truth, was it the coin that he made, and then he did Truth Social. But yeah, we've covered so many different things. I feel like we just got to shake off the cobwebs and get back to it. So we thought live streaming would be a faster, easier way to cover all the crazy shit that's happening. Because like last year, Trump got shot, right? And within a week, no one was talking about it because there was so much happening and so fast. So instead of me
Yeah.
trying to edit a video or you trying to edit a video and then crank it out on top of working 40, 50 hours a week, we thought this was just more efficient and better for like viewers. So here we are. I think the best way to start this and to really kind of encapsulate the 4 years that we're looking forward to with Trump is to discuss the White House website remodel. You showed this to me. I thought this I had no idea what I was in for. So yeah, how did you
Yeah.
even find that? Did you see that in the news or did you find it yourself?
Well, so I'm one of those people that in the last kind of like 4 or 5 months, ever since we started the pilots, actually.
You got a friend.
Yes, anyone who may be listening that knows me personally will recognize that sound.
That's all right. We're a pet-friendly broadcast.
Anyway, we'll see if I can. I got people like stomping around all around my environment, so we'll see how this goes for the next few minutes. But basically, I've become somebody that's a lot more engaged with actually going to the whitehouse.gov and congress.gov websites, because through meeting you and talking to you, I realized that it was a lot better to have a stronger emphasis on actually reading legislative proposals, because those are the things that are tangibly going to have the greatest impact on our day-to-day lives. And with a new president, I thought, I'm sure there's going to be some interesting sentiments expressed on the homepage of this website. And as we're going to demonstrate to people, from the first second that I went to do this, we had an immediate change in perspective on what this website was capable of.
I love this. I love this so much.
Oh, it is arguably the most perfect representation of our now current administration and the culture shift that we've had in the presidency.
Oh my
It's
God.
it's absolutely astounding. Definitely doesn't give any like fascist overlord North Korea vibes whatsoever.
Nah, bro. You're being hyperbolic.
This is how we bring it back. This is how we bring America back.
But in theory, if a Korean propaganda minister was hired by some like shell corporation and they wanted to create a corporate soulless product that just says America, I think this is perfect.
Yeah, or a movie trailer for a new like military psyop film that's coming out.
Tom Clancy presents The White House.
Yeah. 20th Century Fox could have put this super cut together and I wouldn't know the difference.
Oh my God. Okay, all right. Let me switch over so we can show everybody what this is.
It's awesome to explain it, but to see it firsthand, I think is way better than any words that I can string together.
You got to listen to my organic reaction to this. So, here we go.
Dude, I'm already so inspired.
Oh man, look at that. Everyone that saw that's voting Republican, bro. Straight up.
If that doesn't make you want to buy an AR-15 and get a job on a fucking oil rig, I don't know what will.
Oh man. Now, we talked about it. As interesting as that is, we could make it better, right?
Absolutely.
So, let me see if I can get this to work. Okay. Oh man.
Just so everyone is clear, this is not our official job application for the Trump administration.
No, but it should be.
But it should be, absolutely.
All right. Hold on just a sec.
Yeah, I feel like I need a beer in my hand just from watching that video.
True.
And I feel like I'm ready to do like all of the fracking that you could possibly imagine.
Dude, I'm gearing up to do war crimes just thinking about it.
I feel like watching it might already be an accessory to a war crime that was probably committed while the video was being made.
Yeah, man.
That's how you know we're back.
God, that's so good. So much better. Oh man.
So befitting of everything too.
Yeah. But yeah, no. That made me go, you know what? If they want to give him a third term, I'm down. Let's go. But
I can't wait till he's on Mount Rushmore and then they have to pan to the crowd and measure the amount of tears that they shed during the christening of the new mountain.
You know, one of my liberal friends swears up and down he's gonna make like a dollar bill with his face on it. I told him that's ridiculous.
He's already got the coins. Like he could just physically mint a meme coin and sell it. I think that would be arguably more in alignment with his policies now.
Yeah. And between like all the Trump memorabilia, why the fuck does he need a dollar bill? You know what I mean? There's like Trump plates, Trump gold bars, Trump Bible, Trump media conglomerate. Like what else? I know I'm missing like a handful of things.
I mean, did you already mention the shoes?
Oh yeah, but those are just for the black people.
The freedom shoes. Well, yeah, that was a campaign. That was a marketing campaign, I guess.
Who was it? Which one of his aides was like, the blacks love shoes, I know they're gonna buy a lot of them. I was like, holy shit. As a
Secretly,
black
Eric
person,
Adams.
I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, no, that was. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't immediately pull out your wallet and change your voting ballot. Right
I wasn't
then and
gonna say that. I pulled out my wallet and I bought like 3 pairs.
It's okay. I have an entire bookshelf of Trump Bibles waiting for distribution.
As soon as they're no longer $70, I am gonna get one.
I think every American should be required to own one. And to be honest, I think if he ever hears this, that'll happen. So
you know what?
I'm doing my part.
You know what? It all comes together for me now. So when they took the Constitution off the White House website, it's because they put it in your Trump Bible, so you don't need it on the website.
Yeah, they're gonna put up a hyperlink, and it's just gonna be a link to the shop, and they'll automatically have added it to your cart.
That's crazy.
But none of Trump's price fixing emergency executive order is going to apply to that, unfortunately. So,
damn. Well,
what you save on eggs,
now, so.
Yeah, what you save on eggs, you'll put towards Bibles.
Oh man,
it's honestly so surreal how much we talked about that we covered in our 5 pilots, and still how much we didn't cover because of the lapse in time between the content that we made. Like you had mentioned, just a drop in the bucket that, oh yeah, there was an assassination attempt on a campaigning presidential candidate. Like, it's absolutely absurd.
You know what's crazy? I went back and I re-listened to our pilots. I did not remember that we predicted Harris's loss.
Yeah. I flip-flop back and forth with that after the fact, but we absolutely did predict that because it was a sign that the Democrats had already run out of any ideas, and it was reactionary. They were reacting to their constituency being so upset. Unfortunately, they didn't actually tangibly do the things that their constituency really wanted, so this is what you get.
Yeah, and we have this theory, right, that Democrats want to lose. You're still on board with me on that, right?
Yeah, I remember for the longest time I would sit right on the ledge of they were complicit in losing, but then after, I can't even remember what the landmark event was, but after that it was like, nope, I'm with you. I think that they are actively seeking to lose this election. And everything that's happened since then, I feel like has only
underlined
more entrenched me in that stance.
Yeah, like I remember watching the DNC and then Harris gave her speech, right? And it was like this huge movement and everyone had all this I don't know, quote unquote, they were claiming joy and it's like electric to be there. And then she opens her mouth and the bitch starts talking about, I want the deadliest military in US history. It's like, what the fuck? The whole tone shifted. And then people were cheering for this cop who was like a QAnon guy who had endorsed Harris. And I was like, oh, Democrats are Republicans now. Okay, like that's cool.
Neoliberal's gonna neoliberal,
I guess. It was just so wild, the tone shift. And ever since then, Harris just dropped the ball and they fucking muzzled Waltz. I actually liked Waltz.
I think he was the most electable part of their administration, of their entire candidacy, and that's exactly why it makes me suspicious that that's the one element that they suppress the most.
Well, I think it's because he was pro-Palestine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which we can't have. Even though I can't remember what the exact number was, but there was information that came out recently that showed that it had a massive effect on voter turnout, like way more than they anticipated or projected. So, for better or for worse, whether or not you believe that that's a critical make or break decision on your voting, it did. So the fact that they didn't foresee that it would have an impact and went with it anyway means that they're either A, completely detached from their voter base, or B, were complicit in knowing that it would alienate their voter base. So, take your pick, whichever one's worse for you.
Which we kind of also predicted. We at the very least discussed it. It was like the second or third pilot where we were talking about the undecided voters for the midterm.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling people, like, your vote has actual power because you and I, for some reason, had been coming across, either really radicalized people one way or the other, or people that were like, I'm voting for the couch, I give no fucks.
Yeah.
And I was just like, the third party, in theory, could work. Specifically, like ranked choice voting can work, because look at the midterms. You have people that are voting undecided. There was a whole movement built around it, and it got Biden to soften his stance. But they still learn nothing. The Democrats, I mean. And then when you have Harris is like, I'm gonna do nothing different from Biden. Israel, more power to you. It's like, it's a disaster. And I know, did you see this? That exit poll, like, that came out? It was internal polling, an internal exit poll from the DNC. They knew a year and some change ahead of time that Biden was gonna lose his ass in the election.
Yeah,
like
by a landslide. Yeah, exactly. I did see that. Yeah.
That's so disgusting. So, instead of saying, hey, we should probably either find a candidate, or if we're really going to put up Harris so we can keep all this donor money, we should like get her media trained. We should like really, focus in on what her administration is going to look like and make it, unique, and step away from Biden. Instead of do that, they did the opposite. I don't know. It blew my mind, man.
Yeah, not only that, but then I think Kamala actually had a tremendous opportunity to subvert everyone's expectations. And when they announced the change, she received, what was it, like the record for highest amount of funding in the shortest window, like in the first 24 hours.
Yeah. Private donations, and a huge amount of those donations were from people who had never donated in that cycle. So they hadn't donated to senators, they hadn't donated to like local politicians, they hadn't donated at all.
Yeah, in the first week of Kamala's eligibility, she was suddenly the prime golden child candidate. And then over time, all she managed to do was to continue to attach herself to Joe Biden's presidency. Because for one reason or another, they felt that it would be wrong for her to quote unquote throw Biden under the bus because she was a VP. So there was this perceived obligation to sort of stick to her guns. But that's exactly what doomed them in the election. That's exactly why 8-9 million people, whatever the number is, didn't turn out this time versus last time, even though the stakes were perceived by most people as far higher than in 2020. Suddenly, you alienated millions of Americans because of your refusal to denounce the actions of your previous administration. For that to go by unaddressed or unspoken, I think is something that we're going to have to come to terms with when it comes to the Democratic Party here in the next 4 years, especially as the severity of what's going to happen over the next 4 years continues to grow.
Yeah, and one of the things that really pisses me off thinking back on it too is the gaslighting. The amount of just, I guess, just dishonesty, since they knew Biden was going to lose, and people had this feeling that the guy was deteriorating, and they were like, no, he's never been better. What was it that Joe Scarborough, the Good Morning Joe guy, who's now licking Trump's boots? That guy was like,
Yeah.
I've known this man for decades, and he's smarter now and sharper now than he's ever been. Like literally within the week, Biden has like some sort of cognitive impairment at the first debate.
Yeah, and the same thing with Kamala. Kamala was asked multiple times to speak on his cognitive faculties, and she said, I'm the one that's in the room with him all the time. I interact with him more than you guys do, and he's there. He's all there. He's cognizant. He's sharp. And this isn't really like, I don't know. I'm one of those people that actually thinks Joe Biden's presidency as a whole gets more criticism than it deserves in terms of if we're talking about just strictly policy-based decisions. His recovery from COVID and things like that. It's really that last year that was such an egregious disservice to the American public that I feel like it trumps, no pun intended, everything that was before it. And I think like for us to not talk about that as what will most likely be his legacy would be a disservice to more like rational takes and being more objective about it.
Well, I mean, if we're talking policy, sure, but I think that his legacy is failure. I think that that makes a lot of sense, actually. Um, you have all of these political triumphs in terms of policy, or in terms of actually closing wealth gaps, or in terms of clean air and water for people. But that's like, I think Biden even said himself that at some point, like, he's really focused on policy, but he forgot how to do politics. And a lot of the shit, like you said before in a previous, like a pilot, you said a lot of this stuff is optics. That's like half or more than half of the game. And Trump has optics down like pat. That's his bread and butter. He can read a room exceptionally well, and he can play to, I think he can sense what drives that group, and he knows how to leverage it. And like Harris didn't know how to do any of that. I think that she was too dependent on, not to take away from your point with Biden, we can come back to it, but actually both of them, Biden and Harris, I think were too dependent on like advisors and consultants and these like think tanked or like super filtered reactions to things. And it came off as inauthentic. Like if people are telling you, I feel inflation, like the rubber band effect hasn't kicked in yet, and my like real wages haven't stabilized, and you're telling them fuck off, everything's better, quit crying about it, yeah, people are not going to listen to you.
Well, and also the biggest thing that they had is, they had this outward perception or projection, maybe be the better word, that Democrats are always historically the ones that rise above the dirty politics. They rise above that line. But the problem is that when you go up against literal demagoguery in Trump, especially the second time around, it should be as plainly easy as it could be to make sure that he's squashed into irrelevancy for the rest of his life and our lives. And he only gained favor because you can throw as many statistical data points as you want at a population, but if they don't feel that their reality is best represented by the information you're giving them, it doesn't matter to them, which is sort of a repackaging of what you just said. But they refused, like, I guess maybe to be a little bit hyperbolic, it's like they refused to be human, and they approached the entire thing with this overwhelming sort of dressed up corporate roboticism. And that's precisely how Trump gained favor in the first place.
I don't think they refuse to be human. I just don't think they are. I think they're so removed, so disconnected from the struggles of the average person. They don't know what it's like to fucking struggle to have your last $20 and have to figure out if you're buying dinner for tonight or you're fucking getting gas so you can go to work, so you can work late, so that you can make money on the next check, so that you can have both. They don't know what the fuck that's like.
Yeah, those things are all just talking points that they bring up in interviews to try to be more relatable. And that's as far as their politicking goes. And so the fact that, especially coming out of COVID, COVID is such a landmark paradigm shift in American culture that historians are going to reflect on. It's going to be mandatory teaching, I think, even 10 years from now, talking about the era of COVID and how it shifted things economically, socially, etc. For them to be sort of stuck in this like 90s stiff suit era of politicking, it just when you're unwilling to adapt to the culture of the time, it means to me, it communicates to me that you're also willing to not be favored by your population. And once you make that admission as a politician, as someone in power, then it starts to make people question what your motives actually are. And it makes me question whether or not you really feel the gravity that you try to make us think that we would feel. Because a lot of us today are feeling it. There's a lot of real people and real Americans that are feeling the heavy weight of even the first 24 hours of this new presidency. And I don't think that these people that tried to tell us how bad it was going to get actually feel that it's that bad for them, because it isn't. They're on a totally separate tier system of society, and they have this sort of like protective bubble around them, and then whatever they didn't feel protected them, they signed executive orders for.
That's true. I know we're shitting a lot on Democrats. Don't worry, we got plenty of smoke for Republicans as well.
It's because I expect better of them. That's really what it is. It's like I expect you to be the thing that you project yourself to be. So, yeah, make no mistakes. I'm not saying that they are lesser than or worse than. I feel like it's a conversation that has to be had and reminded of, because when we come out of what we're in now, we have to be able to rely on some of these other parties and other people to help rebalance things.
I agree. I definitely agree. But I guess that's a good way to kind of shift into the topics for tonight. It was kind of a nice, like, shaking the legs, stretching.
Yeah, I think it's
conversation.
Sort of like one of the foundations of conversation that we built on over the pilot. So revisiting that is sort of like this is what we've kind of been talking about, and then the election only seems to have kind of affirmed some of our fears and frustrations. That's kind of why I wanted to double back over it. But yeah, don't worry, I'm going to get into the absolute shit Republican that just took office that's going to completely destroy the fucking country. So
tell us how you really feel.
Oh yeah, sorry. I mean, he's great. America's back.
Let's go.
Did you see the video? We're gonna win bigly. Yeah, I know. I feel supercharged now.
Yeah, there you go.
So I replace every bit of criticism with praise.
I'm sending that Trump video to every liberal I know just to troll the shit out of them.
This is why you lost.
Yeah, dude. So January 20th was Monday, right?
So yeah, I think that was the. Yep. I think that was the only relevancy that the date has, right?
Oh no. Well, now, yeah. So Trump got sworn in on MLK Day. I thought that was really uniquely interesting for a handful of reasons. Trump, I remember him giving his speech. He talked about the golden age of America, of course, which you already kind of alluded to. He talked about plans and executive orders that he wants to sign, which we'll also get into. But what I thought was truly disgusting, okay, as a black American, I thought it was fucking disgusting to invoke Martin Luther King's name and allude to the I Have a Dream speech, talking about meritocracy, right? And content of character, not color of skin. And then using that as a shield to promote, I won't just say colorblind society, because I don't think people know like the negative ramifications for that, but axing all of the DEI initiatives immediately upon taking office, and actually repealing the last little bit that was left of some of the civil rights anti-discrimination laws. So I thought that was like uniquely disrespectful when you have, like, I'm going to monologue for a second, sorry. When I think back over 2024, and actually it was before, when you have Biden's administration allowing the Supreme Court to repeal affirmative action, which helps white people, by the way, disabled people, women, Asians, all kinds of other people, have access to upward mobility through education. And I'm just going to put this out there because I know it's a talking point on the far right that Asians were discriminated against. Well, the Asians that sided to help it get repealed, now Asian enrollment is down 40%. So they kind of played themselves. But when I look back, Biden did nothing about it. during his State of the Union speech, he used civil rights icons as shields to talk about voter suppression, but not acknowledge the repeal of this. When you have Democrat and Republican senators being lobbied by special interest groups and think tanks to attack DEI legislation, and then now we have the new administration basically striking the death blow. It's really interesting. It's really interesting to see white nationalism and corporate oligarchy. I guess I'd say corporate oligarchy using white nationalism to entrench itself in policy. It's just mind-blowing. It makes me ill. So I don't know sorry for the rant.
Oh no, it's okay. I mean, we kind of fully expected that to to leak out some raw emotion, which I think it absolutely deserves.
Yeah, I'd like to say to all the like black contrarians that were like, I'm voting for Trump, I'm a free thinker, I'm off the Democratic plantation. Fuck you. Like, I hope that you get your wake up call. Like, have you heard that skit?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Paul Mooney's wake up call, the nigga wake up call. I hope they get it. That's all. Sorry.
No, it just, there's been such a staunch erosion of like baseline expectations of public servants. You're willing to install a president who many around the world, not just in the United States, would consider to be the most powerful, influential single individual on the planet for all of humanity. And for him to go up there and to invoke the name of civil rights leaders, use them as social ammunition and shielding and protection, while signing executive orders that repeal initiatives that only partially exist or primarily exist because of the legacy of the person whose name he's evoking. It establishes such a sadistic irony that you want to like laugh cry about. At least I do.
Yeah, dude.
Because it's so absurd. It feels like it can't be real life.
It felt like they're assassinating his memory. Like, he's already dead, but we're talking about someone that dedicated his adult life to justice and equality and fighting for these things. And he did it through the lens of like Christian Western quote unquote civility politics, which is already like a losing battle in a lot of ways. But he did it. And just to be clear, America hated Martin Luther King Jr. They hated him when he was murdered. I won't say when he died. When he was murdered, he was considered the most hated man in America.
We're about to confirm exactly how much we hated him. Because if that information actually gets fully disclosed to the public per executive order, you're going to find out what everyone's known for a long time. And that's that even though he did it, quote, the right way, as opposed to other civil rights leaders who were also blatantly assassinated for their actions and beliefs, or their mere existence, mind you, he was still killed for it. He was still murdered for doing it the quote correct way, and being the more upstanding face of the civil rights movement. So if this isn't just a massive fuck you to all minorities, but especially Black Americans, I don't know what is. Yeah,
and also like when Trump signed one of the executive orders to open up the files on JFK and MLK, right? I wonder if those are the FBI files, because there's this pervasive lie going around that MLK cheated on his wife, specifically with like white women, which his wife has vehemently pushed back against and said it was not true and it was a character assassination campaign. And then when she asked for proof, because the FBI said they had it, they immediately sealed the files. And they sealed them for like 50 or 60 years, so we wouldn't have known. So I wonder if we'll actually get to see if there's anything there or not.
Yeah, also, what an insane thing to undermine the civil rights movement. They're like, yeah, he's fighting for the rights of Black people to go to the same school as white people, but did you hear he cheated on his wife? I mean, how could he How could we possibly greenlight any of these initiatives when you know that he was unfaithful?
Yeah, and
Because
what a house of cards race relations are if that's all it takes, right?
I
And
mean,
you already have his voter base. Obviously not all of them, but you have a good majority of them that are maybe in like southern states that don't want black history taught at all. They say it makes white kids like hate themselves and stuff, but or like they feel guilty or something. Like I don't know a single black person that's like I'm holding you responsible for things that happened in the past. That's not what that shit's about. And that's how it was used by like Mark Ruffo, the what was it, the Manhattan Institute think tank guy. I think he's moved on to a different far right think tank, but he was like talking about CRT and DEI and all these programs that essentially discuss racial inequality throughout history and even now, and how they want to basically destroy them. And anytime when you hear these terms, they want you to think anti-white racism. He had like a whole little mini manifesto about it. So it's just funny to see these people's desires come to fruition in real time.
well, yeah, and it's like even when the Civil Rights Act was passed, it was passed because there was no way you weren't going to be able to. It was literally. I mean, I'm certainly not going to use the famous quote from Nixon about it, but the fact that it was pushed through the way that it was through, like the way that it was pushed, it was because they had no other choice. So it's not like this was this beautiful moment in American history where white people finally saw the light and realized the horrific nature of their behavior. And so when you know all these things and you know the history, and then know that despite all that, and despite him being a celebrated part of American history, and then revamping that he was murdered by the American government, it really underpins the fact that there's this understanding that it's still an underlying prevalent part of American society, and especially American government and policy.
Yeah, it just brings me back. I know that you're really good at like intellectualizing it and being articulate. For me, I get mad, so I lose my train of thought. But it brings me back to that quote by James Baldwin. I'm going to paraphrase, but essentially during an interview, someone asked him like, why do you seem mad all the time? Why are you always walking around with a chip on your shoulder? And he's like, I'm a black gay man and I know my history. Of course I'm angry. And I think that's unfortunately, it applies to today. It's just so crazy.
Also, James Baldwin would, per the current executive orders, probably never be allowed to hold a job in the federal government, simply by the nature of his birth.
Yeah. Well,
that's fucking crazy. One of the greatest writers in American history wouldn't qualify for a job at the DMV because he's a double minority.
That's so great. That's so good. That's such a weird way to phrase that.
Sorry,
Double minority.
it's just the way my I think I phrase it that way in my head because it shouldn't carry such a callous harshness to it, but it does.
No, I
And when
actually
you
love
hear
it.
someone say it, you're like, holy fuck, that does
No,
sound evil.
I love it. I think we should make a shirt like double
Yeah.
minority, you lose.
The other thing I was going to clarify, because I looked this up, because you were talking about, would they release all disclosure or would it just be the FBI documents? So that hasn't been established, but within 15 days of the executive order being issued, which was yesterday, they're going to have time to create a plan to present to the president for the release of the documentation. And then 45 days after that, they'll have 45 days to prepare and sift through the information and then do a full and complete list.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, dude. This is like, I understand the nature of bureaucracy is like grinding wheels and it's slow, but like
But Trump was supposed to fix that.
Yeah, we're just gonna make shit up. We're just gonna either put it in there or we're gonna lose the file, okay? Because people will forget about this in 2 weeks. It reminds me about like how the CIA had the heart attack gun, and then when they had to testify against with Congress, and they were like, "Well, what happened to it?" They were like, "Oh, we lost it." So we'll go look for it, and when we find it, we'll bring it back. And that was like in what, the 50s or the 60s, and they never found it. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and the fact that they basically have 60 days before they're required or mandated to release the information. God knows how much they're going to take out. And then, I'm sorry, does it take 60 days to upload a PDF?
Yeah.
I can go look up Project 2025, which is a 922 page document. I have it pulled up on my computer right now. It took me 4 seconds to get it.
You don't understand, okay? This is 2025. We have PDFs here. But the MLK files is on scrolls.
Oh, that's right. I'm gonna get the archivists out. They gotta dig back and grab it on a floppy disk.
No, not even that. They have to roll it out on the table. They gotta weigh it down on the corners. They have to take a magnifying glass and then translate from Sanskrit.
Wouldn't it be funny if Doge fired all of the people in charge of the National Archive and then it just completely stymied any chance that those records get released?
That's awesome. I love it. Oh,
yeah.
Man. Don't get me started on the Doge stuff and all of the blatant.
Speaking of DEI hires, RIP Vivek Ramaswamy for not even getting into your own governmental department.
Isn't he running for? Is he running for governor of Ohio?
They're putting him where Vance was. They're filling a vacancy. God. They're filling that vacancy by placing him in Ohio, but they literally, like, based on everything that I've seen, it's like they told him, no, you're going to Ohio. We don't give a shit what you feel about it. And no, you're not going to be a part of Doge, even though you were the co-sponsor for its creation.
Bro, my white mom is from Ohio, okay? I'm not sure that someone with the last name of Ramaswamy is going to do very well there.
Ramaswamy. It's all right.
Oh my gosh.
Couches and couch cushions can feel safer with Vivek than they can with JD, so.
Oh, dang. Throwback. I like it.
Well, you said earlier we were going to vote for the couch, and I was like, well, it depends on which couch, so.
That's true. So, that kind of makes me think, since you were talking about Vivek is like the DEI. Actually, JD Vance is a DEI. I don't know if anyone knows that. He only went to college because of affirmative action. Nope, ironic, right?
Nope.
Yep.
Nope, that's lies. That's liberal bullshit media. Shut up right now.
Well, I'm not a liberal, so what now?
Oh, fuck. Damn it.
Clap.
You're woke? Can I use that one?
Yeah. I'm so
you
woke.
just talked about MLK for a long time, so you're clearly woke.
That's true. Woke. Damn. Let's talk about Elon.
Derailed you there. Oh, Vivek's yeah. Vivek's. I wonder who in the room had the most negative things to say about Vivek, because it feels like Trump and Elon both don't like him.
Well, I mean, okay. Looking back on Trump, when Trump was campaigning, he never gave Vivek the microphone when they were together, because Vivek doesn't know how to shut up. So, it's possible, totally possible.
Vivek is the swamp that is supposedly being drained. Never actually being drained, but he is like a career politician in the most intense sense. He's like the person you would cast in a movie in which the American government had actual villains in it, and he would be the young, charismatic villain that everyone just immediately detests as soon as he's on screen.
That's true. I know that I said let's talk about Elon, but let's stay on Vivek for a second. You remember how earlier today I told you I think that there's times where like a Democrat and a Republican can look at something and they get completely different takeaways from it. It's almost like they're operating in two different realities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a guy at my work, okay? Let's call him Stanley. That's not his real name, but we'll call him Stanley, okay? Stanley asked me recently, how did Vivek make all his money? And Stanley is a super MAGA guy, so I love to talk to him. He's super fun. I don't debate him. I just pick his brain. I love to hear what he has to say and why. So, like, he's such a MAGA guy that he has the MAGA Revenge Tour hat, the white one that has like the blood red lettering on it.
Jesus
it's
Christ.
Fucking sick.
I I gotta
Anyway,
get better merch.
yeah, dude. He was asking me, like, he's like, Vivek kind of came out of nowhere. How did he become a billionaire? So I told him about the experimental drug and the rug pull and the basically scamming investors. And he was like, I feel like he worked hard to get to where he's at. And I was like, in some ways, you're right. You're absolutely right. Just not in the way that you and I would work hard. And
Yeah, I mean,
he like couldn't comprehend that Vivek started as a corrupt individual, and he embodies all of the shit that a lot of the like working man's Republican, like average Joe, despises, but doesn't like. They end up voting against their interests and stuff. He is all of that, and Stanley just couldn't get it.
Yeah, not to mention he's like the definition of a nepo baby, because the only reason that his drug got approved was because his mom was on the board and greenlit it and bypassed a bunch of obvious question marks from the FDA. So, yeah, he worked really hard in the same way that like any multi-millionaire nepo baby works hard, or a mafia don works hard. Of course, it can be hard work. It's just not what we would consider morally upstanding or honorable work.
Yeah. And then when I pointed out some of these things, Stanley, instead of engage any further, he hit, I don't know if it was like a wall internally, but he immediately pivoted and changed the subject to Elon and Doge. So it's just...
So nepo baby number 2.
Yeah. The best one. The one that loves to wave.
Yeah, the king of nepo babies. I think he's the new champion.
Yeah. He loves to send his heart to the crowd. That's been something recently that he's been involved in.
And the thing I really appreciate about him is that he's evolved that gesture over time, because there's a video circulating the internet right now that shows him doing the giving the heart to the audience from a few years ago. And he had this lame ass idea where he would actually like form his hands in the shape of a heart and then push it out to the audience. I think what he's done now is so much more visceral and emotional and effective. It's just such a clear cut communication to the world watching. Yeah, it's really inspiring to see how he's grown into his role.
For anyone that doesn't understand that we're memeing right now, Elon did the fucking Roman salute. Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah.
That's what we're joking about.
Yeah, the Roman salute. The Roman salute that has no other co-opting in history whatsoever.
Did you see the sweeping done by that, or by like outlets? How I think it was New York Times was like, just because it may be the Roman salute doesn't mean it's Nazi affiliated.
Right.
Did you see that article? I sent you that article, right?
Nazis are really good at taking historical reference, and then like neo-Nazis can bury it underneath other stuff. And yes, you did send it to me, by the way, but it reminds me of unironically, the conversations I've had with people that come out with the swastika was actually originally a Buddhist symbol and this and that. And I go, so what does it feel like to be just a miserable racist apologist throughout society?
It's awesome. What do you mean?
It's awesome. I got everything I wanted. My president loves me, and I have tech bro Dogecoin plus bucks on social media from now on.
Yeah. So for anybody who maybe is sweeping for Elon, I just want to point this out. Elon Musk's $10 million pronatal donation is a cover for eugenic support. And we kind of talked about this. Yeah, this man has a long, long history of being affiliated with or being sympathetic to eugenics, or race science, or any kind of number of cockamamie things. The ADL rushed to defend him. They rushed to defend him recently with the most recent Zig Heil. But
Yeah, the most recent outburst, let's call it.
yeah, that's a great way to. Well, actually, I don't want to call it that because he's already using autism as a shield.
Yeah, and by the way, for anyone who does that, just like the same people that used bipolar disorder to cover up for Kanye's blatant white supremacy and racist sentiments, I hope you share a cage in hell together. I hope hell
Yes.
is real and it's manifested for people like you, because you are doing such irreparable harm to those communities.
If the atheist wants hell to be real, you fucked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. This guy's got a long history of making donations like this. The ADL rushed to defend him. I guess they were saying because he's pro-Israel, he's not ideologically a fascist or a Nazi or whatever title you want, whatever hyperbolic title you want to call it. It's funny because the old ADL head then immediately attacked the current ADL head and accused him of corporate corruption. Ben Shapiro, far right pundit, he defended Elon. He was like, "Oh, Elon went with me to Auschwitz, so he's not an anti-Semitic." But I mean, Ben Shapiro also has a long history of saying things like he doesn't care about anti-Semitism. He cares more about values. So I don't know. Yeah. I feel like that whole side is like just super hypocritical.
They're finally getting to go mask off, which is nice because it's the political side of the spectrum that's all obsessed with the history of American exceptionalism, and you know how we can't be Nazis because we were the ones that went out and our grandfathers went out and fought Nazis and destroyed Nazis and killed Nazis, but here we are electing them. Although, to be fair, I don't think Trump's a Nazi. I think Trump's just a hollow shell for money and ego. But you've got the richest man in the world fucking Sieg Heiling on the largest international stage possible. He is openly supporting the current German far-right political party. And has been quoted on several occasions on his, X account, saying that it is the only hope that Germany has to survive, because he keeps talking about civilization collapse, and when he says that, he means for white people, because I've never seen him concerned about any non-white civilizations failing.
Well, I mean, him and his dad were active benefactors of South African apartheid, so I don't think he's worried about other civilizations collapsing. Also, you touched on something just now. I think it's super interesting when it comes to like the benefactors of certain things. Elon Musk originally went to Israel because he was quoting, or no, he didn't quote. He responded to one of the most prolific neo-Nazi accounts on X, right? The guy was saying like social collapse is happening and moral decay is happening because the Jews are replacing white people with like a savage horde of immigrants. And then he said, "You have told the absolute truth." So he got all of his advertising pulled. You know, people were moving off the platform because obviously no one wants to support that shit. It's not cool. And then he doubled down, told the advertisers to go fuck themselves, then apologized, then went to Israel, did a tour of Auschwitz as like the PR campaign. And then now we, like what, a year and some change later, have this. So you're right. Sorry, that's a long-winded way of saying you're right about the moral decay and the great replacement theory and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, his site that he paid billions upon billions upon billions of dollars for, in which everyone kept making fun of him for it being such an outlandish mistake, he literally bought it so he could help curate an environment that pushed these beliefs and theories up. For anyone that has used the platform over the last 2 or 3 years, you would be denying your own observable reality if you said anything to the contrary. That is the entire purpose, from what I can tell, for him purchasing that and then using it as political leverage. He literally leveraged it into winning an election for a candidate he supported, and then he donated hundreds of millions of dollars to, which I find incredibly ironic because he legitimately on multiple occasions would call out how absurd it was that Kamala was getting so much funding. And then you go and look at Trump's donorship, and the highest registered one is Starlink. And then he built his own super PAC to fund a candidate. And now he's going out and saying, fuck it, I took American politics by storm. Let's take Europe next. And
Also,
for some reason,
no, go ahead.
Totally fine.
Just funny note to call back to the MLK conversation. Allegedly, that super PAC that he was running, I think it was in Philadelphia, right? They had a bunch of black Trump voters or whatever that were canvassing for them. And allegedly, they didn't pay them and then just kicked them out onto the street, which is, I think, funny as shit. But I'm also, a sick puppy, I guess.
Well, it'll be interesting to, like, combining that with Philadelphia had a very interesting election. I don't think we'll ever know the extent of what happened in Philadelphia, but with some of the, like, bits of information that's been leaking out and some of the suspicions that are leaking out, it's fucking wild. I mean, some of the information that I've been absorbing lends credence to the idea that he legitimately was part of rigging the election, specifically in Philly.
Well, you can't say that.
Again, based on what I've heard, it's
allegedly.
Possible.
Allegedly.
Even
Listen,
his own
FBI.
Even his own child saying things like, "They'll never know what we did.
Listen,
we did everything in private."
FBI, we love the White House video. Okay, all right. There is no.
Yeah. I favorited it on my YouTube account and downloaded it, and I want to get all of the Trump merch. I'll buy it if you don't arrest me.
Exactly. I'll get a Blacks for Trump hat. Okay.
Oh my god.
I'll swear my fealty. Okay. Oh god, I feel dirty. I
would say you better not, because I will take a picture of you wearing it, and I will never.
Oh god. Actually, that's really good blackmail. That's funny.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to take advice from our administration.
Well, what are you waiting for? Just be like Hassan's uncle and just ask for a job.
Oh my god, dude. Like,
you sent me a banger of a tweet actually before we started streaming.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, Hassan Abi is probably one of, if not the most famous political commentator on social media right now, maybe second to Destiny.
No, he's larger than Destiny.
I think I was going to say maybe second, but I don't have the figures, so I just threw that out there to cover my bases. But
fair enough.
He's pretty much widely considered the number one political commentator in the country, especially for younger audiences. And he got his start because his uncle runs a media company called the Young Turks, which I'm sure people listening have probably at least heard of. And ever since Trump won the election, Cenk has sold his soul. I mean, the boot isn't even being licked. The boot has been deep throated multiple times over at this point. And he's completely turned into this, like, Lex Friedman. Well, the Democrats never want to do anything for me, so I went to the other side, and the other side has been nothing but kind to me. The other side, like, maybe Trump derangement syndrome is real, and it is a real thing. It's not, and then he still tries to backpedal and save face, but he's already halfway through the messaging, and he's basically completely converted. Like, he's jumped ship. And we're at the point now where between these two ends, there is no such thing as a middle ground or a half measure. Like, he's fully swung to the other side.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. It was really rough because you can say what you want about him. I have a lot of respect for the fact that he's been in the industry for 20 years. He was like a pioneer in his day. I don't even agree with a lot of his politics. I just have respect for where he comes from, if that makes sense. And it was really rough to watch him go to Charlie Kirk, who is the guy that helped fund TPUSA. He got a bunch of oil baron money right out of college to start this media company. And he's really, really good at right wing spin. So he can take certain things and present it in a disingenuous way. And it's really effective. His messaging's really, really effective, even though I can't stand the guy. It was hard to watch Jink go and grovel at this guy's feet and do the both sides stuff. Like, both sides are bad, but like, we are all populists here, right? But like, you got the sense. You could just watching the video, you could feel the tension in the audience that they like what he had to say, but they still view him as their ideological enemy. And it was really cringe. It made my skin crawl. I don't know how else to watch it or how else to say it while watching it.
Yeah, well, especially in a time right now where I think one of the biggest takeaways, especially for, like people like you and I, one of the biggest takeaways from just isolating the election and political strategy, Democrats hard lost the media war. I mean, it's not even close. There is a complete takeover of conservative political presence in popular media. They literally brought up people like Dana White on the stage when the election night happened to give him a shout out to his fucking fingers and hands being in all of like millennial and Gen Z media for young men, and how he just helped poison the well of putting Trump at the front face of all of it. And we're never going to know the details of that. We're never going to know what possible alleged monetary association would have come with that. But the fact that you saw them, they lost Rogan, they lost Lex Friedman in a way, they lost, or I guess not lost, but they gained people like Aiden Ross. All these massive media personalities were suddenly, bowing down to Trump and giving Trump airtime. So for the election to happen and for the left, for Democrats to lose a prominent member that was staunchly on their team so quickly spells disastrous implications for the future.
Yeah. And Democrats learn nothing yet again, because they want to lose and they love it. And you know what their idea of a fix for that was? The DNC offered Hassan a bunch of money, millions of dollars, to be the new Joe Rogan of the left. And he laughed in their face. And he was like, this isn't going to fix your problem. And he's right. Because this is depressing news for you. But the number one political commentator in the country right now is Asmongold. And the person I think that has the most influence on media, specifically politics in the country right now, and has for the last decade, is Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan, I heard it put really well. Joe Rogan's whole shtick is he's not a dumb guy, but he plays one really well. And his whole thing is like, oh, I'm just asking questions. I'm just chill. And it gets people to engage and creates trust in the viewer. Because, when you're relaxed and the person you're talking to is relaxed, you drop your guard. And when you drop your guard, you're not filtering information in the same way. You engage with the information differently. So the level of influence is actually more insidious in a way. And I thought that was put really well. So when Harris, and this, I don't know if this is true, I heard, and maybe you heard differently, maybe you can correct me, I heard Harris turned down going on Joe Rogan.
That is correct, but it's a bit of that was used as like a low-hanging fruit sort of counter Harris announcement, but there was some sensible context behind it, I suppose. Just saying stuff like, he mandated, or the conditions were that she wasn't going to come to him, that he had to come to her because she was on the campaign trail and she didn't really have a desire to go to his studio in California. And she also didn't want to commit to 3 hours. She wanted to do an hour and a half. Now, frankly, I think she I don't know that if she does it, she gains that much from it, and that might be part of it. But turning it down also didn't work in her favor. So I feel like she was in a lose-lose scenario there because they had already lost. Like
Well,
she's like that audience was already against her.
Well, she went on that one Chicks podcast and she got flamed for it. So
Yeah.
I feel like she could have used her time better on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Maybe. Yeah. I also just don't know how proficient of a speaker she is. Like over that long form of a format, 3 hours of Kamala having to talk for 3 hours.
Yeah, it's rough, but these are things I think that she could have done. Like one of my big critiques of Joe Biden's failure in the first debate was that it's not enough to rattle off statistics and facts. You have to also know or be rhetorically gifted enough to repel bullshit or bullshit your way around the other bullshit. Okay? So I think even if you go on Joe Rogan and you're expecting to not gain anything from it, you have to be willing to at least push back or be like, establish like a bulwark against someone like Trump going on there and just blasting bullshit about you or blasting lies about you or blasting truth that he can spin in a way to make you look really bad for 3 hours.
No, I guess to clarify
or
my
send
position,
Tim Walz. Tim Walz
Yeah.
would have been a great choice.
I wholeheartedly agree. To clarify my position, I don't necessarily I agree with you in every way, but I honestly think the reason she turned it down is because one, she didn't really have as much investment in the consequences, and two, I legitimately don't think that her campaign team thought that she would come out on top after 3 hours of discussion. Now, I think I'm saying that as a further indictment of her, the candidacy, and the party as a whole, because I legitimately think that it's something that she would have felt was kind of beneath her. And I think that's a huge part of the Kamala problem.
Yeah.
Speaking of
I wanted
social
her to do
media,
well, unfortunately.
yeah, me too. No, I did too. I mean, I voted for her, and I thought that there was a chance that she'd be successful, but it was like when she first announced her candidacy, you felt the sort of the energy shift, and it just watched it die swiftly over the weeks to the point where it came to election night, and it was like there was no faith, there was no confidence, and then within the first hour of watching the votes get counted, you were like, holy fuck, she's not even gonna make it.
Yeah. What were you gonna say though?
I was gonna say, well, speaking of kind of our observations about the digital era and dominance over social media, one thing that was on our docket, if you still wanted to go into it a little bit, was the non-TikTok ban, the TikTok non-ban.
I've been talking a lot, so I'll let you take point on it.
Well, this one's interesting because I think for those who want to double back and kind of listen to our previous episodes or pilots, as you referred to them earlier, this was probably one of the few subjects that we were truly on separate ends on. I mean, as the conversation developed, you can kind of watch us walk closer to the middle at the end of it, because we have similar opinions of the app itself, but we had very differing opinions on the proposal of the ban. And it turns out that despite all of the sort of hysteria that was around it, it lasted for all of 12 hours. Now, I know people can say that it's still on the table, and there's like I think it's a 60-day or 70-day timetable for whether or not it's going to be reinstituted. I have zero faith that it would ever be reinstituted. But not only was it such a hollow threat, so to speak, but the fact that after the ban was lifted, quote unquote, basically people went to sleep, it was banned, they woke up, it was unbanned. There's already a change in the algorithm that demonstrates more Meta and Trump focused content.
Interesting. In what way? Does it like signal boost conservative like talking points, or is it specifically prompt like or sorry, Trump's like press stuff, or like what do you mean?
So in my experience, and this is just granted, this is anecdotal, but this is between me, people I know in my personal life that use the application as well, and sentiments that were expressed and are findable on the internet. Everyone noticed that there was a tangible change in the content that was being pushed on their For You page. Most of it being slanted towards pro-Trump. I mean, you could use the word propaganda and it wouldn't be inappropriate and it wouldn't be too out of place, but it's basically pro-Trump sentiment. One of the first things that you saw was reposts of a TikTok recorded by the CEO of ByteDance talking about how he was so happy that Trump was willing to come to the table and work out an agreement with them. And when you first opened the app after the ban was lifted, they made sure to actually name drop Trump as the one responsible for this thing coming back.
I did see the video with the ByteDance official. I did see that.
and like people are now having to figure out how to revamp their algorithms to be better curated to the way that it used to be for them. But it clearly reset. Yeah, exactly. It clearly reset to a conservative pro-Trump slanted algorithm. And like I was watching all kinds of videos of people saying, "Oh, you have to go in and you have to block this account, and you have to block this account, and you have to report this video and report this video in order to get your feed cleaned up." And it's like, well, I think the important part to fixate on is the fact that it has to be done at all. When all they did was turn the server off for 12 hours and then flipped it back on, all of your content, all of your profile information was still there. But suddenly some radical changes had been made.
You know more about this update on TikTok than I do, so I defer to you. But I've heard rumblings that now it's definitely got a pro-Israel slant. So I had heard that people will type in specific content creators that are in Palestine and they're just not there. I don't know if that's true or if that's,
it definitely seems to be. I don't know that I can't speak to whether or not those things are objectively gone from the platform, but they are definitely not promoted on the platform anymore.
Maybe it's suppressed or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was seeing the same rumblings, and so I went into the app and I started searching like Gaza Today or Palestine Today or news feed from the Gaza Strip or the West Bank or whatever, and I would get maybe one or two results. What was happening even 2 nights prior to the ban being put into place is if you scrolled through my For You page, every 3 or 4 scrolls was a live stream of what can only be described as a refugee recording live on TikTok from some sort of refugee encampment.
Oh, is that the one where they all have cameras set up and it's like almost like a community refuge?
Yeah, and it was like you couldn't go a day, you couldn't even go an hour without seeing 5 or 6 of them if you were on TikTok consistently within that hour. And I know people that had the exact same experience, and we would literally sit there and we would compare how many swipes up it would take to get to the next one. And on average, it was maybe 7 or 8 swipes. I haven't seen a single one of them since Trump took office. And I can't even find them when I search for them actively. So again, this is anecdotal. So I'm not claiming objective truth here.
Right.
But it's definitely changed. It has absolutely changed, observably and obviously.
Yeah, it's changed and slanted toward freedom. Didn't you watch the video?
Yeah, that's right. I just gotta, whenever I get really overwhelmed with the world, I just gotta play that video and it'll just kind of help recenter me. It'll be my new center of gravity, I think.
If you're as nihilistic as I am to certain degrees, I think that's true. Like you said to me earlier, like a laugh so you don't cry type situation.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that Trump video is going to be great, and I'm going to use it multiple times this year.
I mean, I'm probably going to have to, because given some of these executive orders that have been put into place, I can't even begin to imagine the full extent of what could happen as a result of them. Of course, I'm a lefty libtard, so to speak, if I
Oh my god.
say that it will happen. So I'm not allowed to say that it will happen, but they could happen
Isn't
as
it
a result
funny
of some of
that
this.
even if you were a conservative, not saying you are, but even if you were, that any critique, any criticism whatsoever, you're automatically woke, you're automatically a communist, you're automatically gay, you're automatically like anti-American, you're automatically insert pejorative.
Yeah, and that's from the party that is run on the anti-censorship platform.
Yeah, give me a break.
Anti-censorship rhetoric, all these new things implemented to help protect total freedom of speech,
Well,
except for the fact that you'll get banned if you're anti-Israel on
I'm gonna
literally
be
any social media.
hyperbolic. I'm gonna be hyperbolic with it since we're shifting into the executive order conversation. Um, I told you this earlier. I think the Republican Party is officially dead. There is no more Republicans as you knew it 20, 30, even 10 years ago. Gone. Okay. Even Trump running 2016, he ran as like a quote unquote outsider, anti-establishment. The Trump from 2016, by compared to Trump of today, not even fucking close. You can't compare it. Okay. I think Republicans now are just, I hate to say it because it sounds so hyperbolic. It sounds so like needlessly sensational, but they're authoritarians, just flat out. And the Republican Party, as it was 10, 15 years ago, is now called the Democrat Party. Like, we've been pulled so far to the right. I don't even recognize these parties anymore. And every moderate I know, every single fucking moderate that I know, ends up doing both sides, even if it's the most heinous shit, right? It'll be like, let's say Republicans are putting the gun in the mouth of every immigrant child in America, and they're threatening to pull the trigger. And let's say Democrats are doing tax evasion, okay? They'll go, well, both sides, they're all corrupt. They're all doing evil shit. It's like, well, maybe one of these things is more immediately evil than the other, right? And they go, I don't see it that way. But, what I will say is trans people should stay out of sports. And then I throw my hands up in the air because I can't. I can't talk to these people. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's almost, I feel like I'm getting trolled.
Yeah, all 8 of those trans people in the NCAA, we gotta stop everything and we gotta go get them.
It's, I don't know if you can have the conversation, you can have the trans conversation, but it's just weird to me that like that would be the thing that a lot of moderates end up focusing on. The culture war has brain rotted so many people. It turns people into like the most fear-based, reactionary, bitch-made people I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if there's critiques to be leveled against views on the left, that's fine. But you can still have those conversations in constructive ways. And then I know this is a novel concept, you compare and contrast with data, right? You have your anecdotal experience, but that's not what shapes the world, okay? And then you compare it to statistical analysis, so that you can kind of understand what's really going on. But culture war stuff is like not about that. I say all of these things because I think it leads into all of the MAGA people, all of the I won't even call them necessarily proto-authoritarian people that are going to side with these executive orders no matter what, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how much it's anti-constitutional. Like all of a sudden the Constitution doesn't fucking matter. Okay? Libertarians, Republicans, the constitutional ones, the ones that sleep with the shit, right? The ones that want it in their Trump Bible, doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter if it's good for the environment. It doesn't matter if it's good for anybody. As long as this administration wants it, by God, they're for it. And I think this is like we're entering into a new era, the golden era, if you will. What do you think?
I'm admittedly smirking a little bit because I don't know if you recall this conversation, but I recall a conversation that we had in person several months ago about how I stood out on the ledge and I said, you watch the implementation of MAGA and Trump's presidency and authoritarianism will serve as a justification for leftists all across the country to slide left or to slide right. But so long as they don't slide as far right as Trump does, no one will take notice. And then a secondary consequence of what we're about to experience, I fear, is that we have gotten to the point now where the supposed upholders of democratic ideals, as you said, will crave authoritarianism as long as it's in their direction, as long as it protects their way of life and their comfort. We're going to get to a point where we have two ends of the political spectrum that are equally authoritarian, and it's a swing of a giant blade back and forth between the two, and most normal people will be the one underneath the blade as it goes back and forth.
Yeah, I agree. The Overton window is going into overtime. That shit is absolutely swinging back and forth.
Yeah. And so long as like pearl clutching white moderate liberals have social minorities and ethnic minorities to get cut first, it's not going to be an issue until they're the last ones on the chopping block.
Yeah.
I think we're already seeing that manifest. I mean, like I've been saying, the erosion of the standard. I know plenty of people that talk about it. Plenty of people that talk about it, lament it even. They curse at their television sets. But when you actually challenge them for their lack of conviction on their beliefs, they're the ones that are in forums and message boards saying liberals actually turned me conservative. They turned me to MAGA because they were mean to me. They made me feel bad about myself. So I decided to vote for overt fascism.
You know what's funny? I have a friend, and he's a teacher in a southern state. I have a lot of respect for him. He would tell those people that their values were never in what they claim.
Yeah, absolutely.
He would say, if this thing is enough to rattle your core and move you ideologically to a completely different direction, you either didn't understand what it was you were fighting for, quote unquote fighting, or you never had those values to begin with, and you're all operating on shapes and colors and feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I think morality, when things are safe, isn't really the true test of what your morality is. Morality can only be tested against adversity and opposition. So if your beliefs only hold true when there's nothing at stake, you don't really believe them. You just abide by them.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You co-opt them as your own, but then as soon as the flames get higher, you're the first one turning in your neighbor. These are the people that are going to be sending in these DEI McCarthy witch hunt emails against their coworkers for being black or being trans or being gay, whatever it is. And it's literally how you pave a superhighway to a fascist society. And the fact that I had somebody argue with me about this, which I cannot believe. The fact that Americans have been so beaten over the head with education about Nazism in World War II, and then we walked hand in hand into a similar administration with no real opposition or fight whatsoever, kind of gives credence to the fact that what a lot of other people in social rights groups have been saying is that we never really actually wanted to believe these things. We just felt pressured to because we didn't want to be the ones in the middle of the line of fire against those things.
I put a quote on the screen because as you're saying these things, and we were already talking about MLK, I think this quote is like really, really relevant. So,
Damn, I'm not really one to give myself a pat on the back, but if I can say a thing that's almost similar to somebody that awesome, I think I'll give myself a little credit there.
Yep. Now all you have to do is spend the rest of your life fighting for equality, and then someone can come along and fuck it all up.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work, Chief. I think I'm gonna back down on that one. I think I'm gonna report you after this video, unfortunately.
Uh-oh. ICE is coming to the door.
Oh, I'll add it to the.
They're saying they're
live
giving me
update.
a free trip to West Africa? What does that
Oh
mean?
my god!
Yo!
You're gonna be a part of the new Chinese foreign aid program.
Oh, shit.
All right, but as much as we've discussed all this other fun stuff, we do have to at least hit on a few of these executive orders
All
and
right,
actually
you're right.
drill down on them because it's drill time, baby.
Drill, baby, drill. All right.
I don't know if you had a particular point you wanted to start at, or if you
Nope.
wanted me to start.
I figure we can just kind of go over a list of the first executive orders. I think you mentioned there were 6 pages of these things. So, and this website has a link to them, which I can include in the description once we wrap up, so people can check it out in their own time. Please, please, please read through it. Some of them are short, okay? So it's not like you'll spend 8 hours reading. Some of them are a little longer, but I think that if you know what's going on and what's coming down the pike, I think you're better armed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and being informed is probably one of the most important things that we can do. And for those that have the means and almost privilege to disseminate that information, I think there's almost an obligation morally and ethically to do so. So
Yeah.
I would strongly encourage everyone to start getting really in tuned with consuming information as much as you can if you're concerned about things that are coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things, like, we can gloss over some of these on the page because of the 6 pages. There's some that are, like you said, some of them are really short, some of them are really simple. Like, there's an executive order for, memorandum of the Secretary of State. There's executive orders for his appointments and his announcements of his candidates and stuff like that. So I think that those have been kind of talked about ad nauseum in other media circles. So if you don't know who's already being proposed for cabinet positions, that information is available pretty much anywhere. If you wanted a sort of a more timely update, just to confirm, Pete Hegseth was confirmed today for Secretary of Defense earlier today, despite one of the most train wreckish hearings I've ever heard in my life for somebody of that position.
See, that's another thing Stanley said was he did great, and they were trying to railroad him. Different realities, I swear to God.
Yeah. Doesn't even know what certain coalitions are that the United States government and especially the United States Department of Defense is directly involved in on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
I have no problem
really
with the fact. Yeah, like we discussed earlier, I have no problem with the fact that somebody who has military background and military experience should be SecDef, and I believe firmly that that should be a qualification. It shouldn't be your only one. It shouldn't be your only qualification, especially if you didn't serve of a certain rank in the military. The fact that I have to even say that sounds asinine to me, because obviously we should already know this. But we're in the era of stripping away all preconceived ideas and boundaries and ethics and things like that. So I guess throw that all out the window.
Well, Deus Vult, right? That's his tattoo. God wills it. So
that's okay, because Jimmy Carter also likes that sentiment, so that completely absolves him of being a bad person.
Great. I think that they serve different gods. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to read this real quick, just so people have kind of a general idea of what we're going to go over. It's super short. U.S. President Donald Trump started his second presidential term with a promise to reverse policies from former President Joe Biden's time in office, issuing more than 24 executive orders on topics including immigration, gender identity, and oil drilling. Your favorite thing in the world is oil drilling, so I know you're excited. Presidential actions can take different forms, including executive orders, memoranda, and proclamations, pardons, and other acts of clemency, of which Trump issued hundreds of his first day in office. most related to the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot, are not executive orders. I'm not sure how they define those, but they are not classified as that. So,
yeah, I think right below that it actually
there you go.
says.
An executive order is an official document issued by the U.S. president that shapes the way federal government operates and sends a message to the president's top priorities in office, or as to the president's top priorities in office. It's not a piece of legislation, and it does not require approval from Congress. The only way to overturn an executive order is through another executive order. Trump revoked dozens of Biden's executive orders on January 20. That was Monday. Historically, however, Congress has challenged executive orders and can also delay an order from taking effect, such as by removing funding. Below is a running list of executive orders Trump has issued as of January 24, 2025. We will still update this page as needed. I also want to point out that states can file, this not in this, but states can file lawsuits to try and hold up executive orders in court. So,
which is already happening.
Yeah.
In regards to revoking citizenship by birth is one of the main ones right now.
And also saying that you shouldn't be able to arrest children on the way to the hospital and deport them, which did happen. Day one, that happened. That was interesting.
Yeah, and then the other story from today, I think it was in Chicago, ICE agents tried to enter an elementary school without prior authorization, and they were actually turned away at the school. So I guess a win for solidarity there.
I think it's temporary. Before we get into the EOs here, I think it's temporary. I think Trump will threaten federal funding to the state and basically hold them hostage until they take over or
100%.
hand over the kids or whatever. So.
It's going to go hand in hand with him ripping up FEMA. He's going to start using political aid as a fucking weapon.
But yeah, I mean, he's already doing that with California.
Yeah, he's like today told them directly.
Today he did that with he had a meet and greet with California officials, and they were groveling and begging and glazing the shit out of him. So it was really interesting to watch these Democrats kiss his ass. So, which executive order did you want to go over? There's some of them are really interesting. We've got border security, citizenship, and immigration.
So the ones that you know me, and you know where my personal attachments to certain things kind of rise up, and you had kind of alluded to it earlier when you said, I know your favorite thing in the world is oil drilling. The reason that I want to touch on that first is because it kind of lumps together multiple issues and multiple executive orders into kind of one topic of conversation. The first one being the unsurprising removal of the United States from the Paris Climate Accord, which I think anyone who's been paying attention politically kind of already saw that coming, because he did it in 2016 as well. And then Biden put us into the climate agreement, so it was only expected that he would remove us out. But to take that out and then green light what I can only assume is going to be just a massive raping of natural resources in Alaska specifically, but let alone all across the United States, especially across the coasts, I think really hurts me a lot, being someone that's more environmentally conscientious, at least in terms of what I focus on politically. I think like I'm legitimately at the point where, after reading the executive order pertaining to Alaska specifically, it's a place I've always wanted to visit, and I feel like if I don't visit it in the next 5 or 6 years, it's not going to look remotely the same as it does today because of the stuff that he signed. And to clarify what I'm saying, he's basically saying that Alaska has long been overly protected by government bureaucracy, things like the EPA and different bureaucratic regulations. And it's time for, in the vein or in the sense of promoting American exceptionalism and American business boom, we're going to completely pull all the protective barriers around Alaskan wildlife, so that way we can extract all of the oil and natural gas that we can from it. We're going to knock down all of the forests that we can find, so that way we can bolster the timber exports. And we're also going to start ramping up how much we do commercial fishing off the coast. For anyone that even has a baseline understanding how harmful those three things specifically are to ecosystems and to natural environments, I feel so sad. Like this, I know it sounds kind of fucked up because of all the horrible things that he's announced, but this one was maybe the one that made me legitimately like altered emotionally, because I have this like sort of nostalgic attachment to Alaska being always referred to as, oh, it's one of the last great wildlife frontiers in the world. It's, you know, this beautiful, diverse wildlife that is already kind of feeling the effects of climate change and things like that. But at least it seems to be holding strong, and it's a place that people go for ecotourism and the like. And knowing now that there's an executive order from our president to just completely rip up the roots of everything that's there that makes it so beautiful, like I'm caught at a crossroads, because like I know people that live in the area, and it will mean good things for employment, and it's unfortunate when you live in a place where jobs are directly tied to your natural resources. But to go about it in this way means that you're going to make a bunch of money from all that job creation, and then you're going to want to move 5 years later, because the area that you're in that you love isn't going to feel like home anymore.
I think they're going to turn it into the next Appalachia.
I think so too. I think it's going to be completely bereft of all, like, most of the human population. There's an even possible other case scenario where, depending on who they bring in for that area, it could even risk heavy gentrification, because it's also an area that houses a lot of Native American population as well. So of course, a giant loss for them. It's one of the few states where they still have a pretty strong percentage of the population by ethnic divide. And so it's just one of those things that really is harrowing for me to read, that such a beautiful place. And it's just like, it feels especially scummy too, because of all the sentiments around Canada that are being thrown around right now. Like the fact that we're just going to take this little pocket that we know is attached and just a little bit above and beyond, and we're just going to fucking destroy it. I mean, we're just going to level half of the state, all for the sake of capitalism and consumerism, and to somehow make Americans' lives better by ruining one of the more beautiful parts of the country. Like, I'm not sure who doesn't realize that Americans have one of the best conditions that we're in because of our national parks, because of our wildlife and our diverse biosphere. So yeah, let's just go ahead and say fuck it to all that, because I need some more investment money. I need some more manufacturing to be done, because that's really all life is about now.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just processing this. Like, do you think that Trump is going to gut, or at least his administration, probably not him, he just signs it, right? Do you think that they will destroy the Department of Natural Resources?
I think that what they'll do is they'll kind of do what they did with the EPA, where they feel like, it almost feels as if they don't want to. Exactly. Like, they're going to make them so powerless that it's actually more, they would rather keep it in existence but completely neuter it than to actually eliminate it as a whole. And the other part that's an extension of this is the other executive order that he signed, declaring a national emergency for our energy in this country, which, as far as I can tell from the readings, the only actual, like, rooted belief that extends into that is because gas prices are high. And as a result of that, he's about to justify deploying the US military to have full executive authorization to lay as much energy related infrastructure across the country as it sees fit.
Yeah, I see that. The
to have an
expansion of our nation's energy infrastructure from coast to coast is an immediate and pressing priority to the protection of the United States' national and economic security.
Yeah, so what we're saying is like, and I think if you scroll down even further, one of the more alarming proclamations made in it was that it was like, any currently pending projects for infrastructure related to energy are basically going to be immediately not only greenlit but accelerated. So like in the next 5 to 10 years, you could see a complete
Here we go.
reshifting of our geographical landscape across the country, not just Alaska. I just think Alaska is going to get the worst of it.
This is section 3, expediting the delivery of energy infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
To facilitate the nation's energy supply, agencies shall identify and use all relevant lawful, emergency, and other authorities available to them to expedite the completion of all authorized and appropriated infrastructure, energy, environmental, and natural resource projects that are within the identified authority of each of the secretaries to perform or to advance.
Yeah. And you see they specifically highlight the West Coast, the Northeast, and Alaska.
That's true, they do.
So California is about to be completely ripped through by probably giant commercial railways that are there to transport natural gas back and forth. There's going to be a massive uptick in pipeline creation, refining plants.
Oh my God. I can't even think about how many train derailments we're about to have because of the destruction of all regulation already around trains.
Yeah, like they're literally saying the Army Corps of Engineers, I can see it down underneath that, the Army Corps of Engineers and the Civil Works portion of the Army is going to be responsible for this rapid deployment of energy-related infrastructure. I think once you've been around long enough, and I'm not saying that I'm old, I'm just saying that I'm old enough to kind of understand what that language implies. And I'm here to tell you, people, saving 40 cents a gallon is going to pale in comparison to what this nation's going to look like if this goes to the extent that I think it's going to go.
How far do you think it'll go?
I mean, I think, I legitimately think half of Alaska is going to be completely leveled and deforested.
In
I
4
think.
years? Or do you think if they're just let loose?
I mean, I don't know if I'll say it'll happen in precisely 4 years. First of all, we don't even know that 4 years is the end of this. Is kind of the other big looming topic of conversation. But I guess that's not on the forefront of people's brains right now because it's still so fresh. But I think between Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and California, because they say they're also going to hit the Northeast, but something tells me that distribution's not going to be even. I think that distribution is going to be heavily slanted, where the West Coast takes the biggest brunt of the issue. And totally not because of any political retribution whatsoever. I mean, how do we know that part of the conversation today in California wasn't, I'm still going to get rid of FEMA, and I'm about to change 30% of your state's landscape because you don't have a choice anymore?
What is this about the Endangered Species Act?
Probably something terrible. Emergency consultation regulations. I don't know. I guess I should read down into that, but to me that screams we're going to come up with emergency legal justifications to ignore endangered species for our projects. But I mean, you know, they tried to put nice things in there like, oh, we're going to seek consultations first before we just start ripping it up.
Yeah, but that consultation doesn't mean anything. It's just a formality, right?
Exactly.
Could be like,
saying
hey,
you have
here's $50K to say that we can drill here.
Exactly. Saying that you had the conversation doesn't mean you actually cared about the outcome.
I see the secretary or the director of Fish and Wildlife Services, and I know this is not like a funny topic, but all I can think of is Trump having it out for the smelt fish in California. So goddamn mad about that fish. So
I mean, yeah, it's one of his other executive orders.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. I love that he put like a few really personal touches in his executive orders. Like he was so upset that they flew the flag at half-mast for his inauguration because at Carter, that he signed an executive order that regardless of the circumstances during inauguration, the flag would have to be raised and then it could be lowered hours later.
Damn.
But he was just raging at the fact that the flag was not at full mast, because I guarantee you he was at full mast, and he did not like the flag did not represent him.
Actually, that would have been a sick segue in that video if it shows like a flag at half mast and they just raise it. That'd be sick.
He wants pretty buildings, and I want that flag a flying.
I wonder if anybody. I know that there are people that read these things, and I know there's people who are probably far more educated than we are, who analyze these things and understand like how to interpret the law properly. It just frustrates me because I don't see a lot of people talking about this. Like, people are crying like, oh, Trump is an obvious, Trump is signing executive orders. But like, nobody's really talking about the things that you're talking about.
Not really. You know me, my
it could just be my media environment, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't see the same conversations happening. Not to necessarily make it as a plug for somebody else's content, but another reason that I started getting into viewing things like this was because I started listening to a podcast called Lawfare, and that's literally all they do is drill down on the legal aspects of most things associated with American politics. And it's kind of rewired my brain to realize that kind of like Wall Street, it's a whole ecosystem that happens in a vernacular that the layman just won't understand, and it's information that's not really presented to you. They always say that the American government is transparent in the sense that they'll put the information out, but I think that that's way different than putting the information front and center to the average American. Yeah. And I think that that's part of the problem, is that they have the plausible deniability to say, well, the information's there, you can go find it. I'm just not really going to tell you where to find it, but you can go find it. And so clearly I'm not a bad guy.
Can you interpret it properly?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, look at all this United States code. Like, I had this, I before we started recording, I had like 37 tabs open because I was copy pasting different codes, and then realizing, hey, guess what? I'm just a normal person and I don't understand shit about any of this legal jargon, and you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. And this is the stuff that actually directly translates into how it reflects daily life, is all this shit.
Yeah, but that's why we exist. We have to do the research, synthesize the information, and then present it to the audience.
Well, I do my best. Yeah. But yeah, the environmental side of things has definitely kind of touched me on a more personal basis. Just like, going into this, you you had your topics that you were a little bit more adamant about discussing, and this has always kind of been mine. I think that's probably pretty consistent with our conversations in the past since you've known me.
Yeah,
it really
don't get it twisted. I'm big on like supporting animal rights and things like that. So the stuff that you're talking about is kind of a nightmare. So
yeah, I mean, like it always goes to one of my fundamental criticisms of like capitalist societies in America specifically, is like, what is the fucking point of telling me how much our GDP increases year over year if I have no forests, if I have these like boring empty lot cities, if I have 3 hours of gridlock traffic everywhere, if I have no time to even go outside and enjoy half of it? Like, what is the purpose of progress for normal people? Because it's normal people that actually make the progress possible. What is the point if everything around us has to fall apart in order to attain it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I was buying a bunch of crypto coins.
Well, good for you, because they stripped a bunch of regulations around that too. So it's literally, we're going full. Yeah, we're going full send. I mean, we've already, for first time in history, Donald Trump loves legacy. So, I mean, he will go down in history as the first, and hopefully, but sadly, maybe not the only president to ever actually have a cryptocurrency based on them that was a complete rug pull on normal people.
I'm not gonna lie. I think if the fucking Democratic consultants told Joe Biden or Harris to have a crypto coin and they'd win, they would have done it.
Bro, Dark Brandon would have sold.
That would have killed, bro.
Yeah.
Those memes were so good.
Yeah, dude, like the little icon is him with the laser eyes. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
please, that would have made so much money.
Oh my god, that would. And it's too late now because a week from now we're gonna find out Joe Biden died.
we're
That
gonna
is
find
a
out.
prediction. I'm making a prediction. This motherfucker's gonna die this year.
We're gonna find out that he died in 2023.
It's all AI. That's why they're invested in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm
That's
not
why,
gonna lie. When he was gone after he got COVID again or whatever it was, and Harris was like announced to run, and they did that really corny staged thing. I think it was over Christmas, and she's home, or Thanksgiving. Maybe it's Thanksgiving, and he calls her, and she's like on the phone, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Joe, are you sure you're gonna endorse me? Are you okay with that?" That whole like spiel. It sounded like AI on the phone. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie, and
Kamala,
I was
you
like,
betcha, lady. I'm definitely gonna endorse the shit out of you because I love this country.
"That's right, Jack." I started in what was it? Scranton.
Yeah.
Okay. I know what hard work looks like.
I'll be honest, I still think it's entirely possible that you're correct. But it just wasn't because he was dead. It was because he might have
Couldn't
been
talk.
dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were like, holy shit, we need something.
I know that's like super conspiratorial, but like if you go back and listen to the video, it doesn't sound like him. Not really. It
Yeah.
sounds like something that's trying to sound like him. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, no, I fully agree with you.
But yeah, I think he's gonna die this year. Side note.
I mean, I thought he was gonna die mid speech most of the time, so I
That's
honestly wouldn't be shocked by any of that.
All
right. Well,
yeah, we kind of went over those. Paris climate, opening Alaska to oil and gas drilling, fucking crazy. American energy emergency. Why don't we just shift right into the AI infrastructures then?
yeah, I mean, I think it kind of all goes hand in hand with removal of regulation and the implementation of what I think can only be really referred to as accelerationism, but in the worst way possible. So not only was there an executive order solely dedicated to announcing, hey guys, we're not really going to regulate AI anymore, because we just pledged hundreds of billions of dollars to OpenAI and other companies for something called the Stargate project, which sounds really cool, even though for some reason my guy Elon doesn't like it, thinks that they're scammers lying to you about how much funding they've gotten. And then I go on whitehouse.gov and they've confirmed it and they're proud of it. Anyway,
there's so much to talk about just that. Like,
yeah,
we don't know where the funds are coming from. They make it sound like it's public funds, but then they say at the press conference that it's private donor money. But then you also made the point that it's X amount of donations, but it will accrue like 6 times that over the next couple of years, right? Which has to be public funds.
Yeah, it says here on OpenAI's page, which, by the way, for people who may not know, OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT, and they're considered the odds-on favorite for those who frequent Polymarket, that absolute cesspool of capitalism, especially capitalism as a psychological disorder. Anyway, sorry, no, not to get off topic here, but yeah, exactly. They're considered the front runners to be the first to achieve what they call AGI, or artificial general intelligence, which is supposed to be the big scary thing that we're simultaneously really excited to achieve, but also terrified to achieve, because every sci-fi author and movie director in human history has told us that we shouldn't be excited about it. They've announced something called the Stargate project, which is interesting because it's already the name of a pre-existing government project from like I think the 90s or something. Anyway, I don't think that they're related. I think that they just like using the name Stargate to get attention.
It got my attention because when you brought it up first, I asked you if it was SG-1 or Atlantis. So yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But what's interesting, yeah, because for those who really want to get into crazy conspiracies, the original Stargate project was about people who could do what's called remote viewing. It was very tangential to psychics and psychological warfare.
What is
And
that called? Astral projection? Or was
yeah,
it not astral projection?
no, I mean it kind of is. It's all under that same umbrella.
Dude,
Um,
badass.
did you ever hear about the thing called I think it's The Men Who Stare at Goats was
Yeah.
the movie and the book? The Stargate project was actually part of all that. Like that was a part of it. Um, so those are all linked together. It was
Dude.
like psychic headhunters and planning ideas in other people's heads, and
Psychic
stuff like that.
assassinations. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. So basically, what we've confirmed is that the aliens are here. They've been here the whole time, and they're about to invade. Anyway, so
Someone's gonna clip that and be like, they're telling the truth.
yeah. Wait, there's a guy in a black suit outside my apartment. I'll be right back.
There's like 3 black suit
wait,
guys, but they're
it's Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
I think I'm.
well, those are for you.
Yeah.
Mine are, I think, SWAT cops. That's crazy.
Swastika cops? Is that what you're
all right. Continue. What were you saying? Oh,
So, on OpenAI's website, the announcement page for the Stargate project, they said that the Stargate project is actually a company. So it's the name of a company which intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years building brand new AI infrastructure for OpenAI. So to clarify, this conglomerate that's being formed will only be usable and will be sole proprietary property of OpenAI. So this is directly going into their back pocket. But it's a concerted effort by a company called SoftBank, which I believe is Japanese. OpenAI, of course, Oracle, who we've talked about before, and I think has some interesting implications with their involvement.
Everybody's favorite defense contractor.
And TikTok affiliate. Don't forget about that either.
Yeah.
And then a company called MGX, which I'm just going to be honest, I don't really know anything about them. But basically, it's a UAE based company, which is unsurprising considering I was just about to mention the fact that this is being piggybacked upon another announcement that the Saudi government was going to be donating $600 billion, which, if you did the math I just did before, is pretty close to the other number, over the next, I think it was 5 or 6 years. So you have all of the heavy hitters of international finance coming together to build artificial infrastructure with really no clarification on what that means. They just keep saying they are particularly focused on artificial general intelligence, but they want to build massive data centers. They want to reroute energy infrastructure to support their data centers and their data farms. So get ready to turn up to 11 what you thought was already up to 11 when it comes to mining your data on all of the platforms that you use and using it to fund AGI development, which I know sounds like a win for you, but I don't really think it is. OpenAI has already partnered with Microsoft as well. So basically all the main names in tech are collaborating to form a new company which can now receive its own separate funding from across the globe. Yeah. And this is on piggybacking on the announcement that we're going to radically deploy new energy infrastructure in the United States.
They already started building too, by the way. I don't know if you saw the press conference with all the OpenAI guys, which Elon is currently suing, by the way. They talked about how they wanted 10 buildings to start, and each one is going to be, what did he say, 500,000 feet wide? Some crazy number.
Alaska is going to be a giant data farm.
Why do this? I don't understand.
Because it's what we have to do. It's what capitalism insists upon. There is no benefit in stasis. We have to continue to grow. How are we going to get to Mars if an AI can't figure out how we're supposed to build the spaceship right?
Oh my God. I have to play the Mars video. Did you ever watch that?
No, I didn't know.
Okay. I'll play it at
the other more serious implication of this. I don't know if you saw this announcement, but there was a bill brought forth to Congress this past week suggesting that AI should be deemed a legally recognized and protected administrator of insurance for medical needs.
You know, that's been like a hotly contested thing for the last like several months.
Well,
And
considering somebody may have died because of his
yeah,
abuse of such technologies.
yeah, the Luigi stuff. That wasn't, from my understanding, the what's his name, Brian something, the guy that got assassinated, the
Yeah, honestly, for
United
some reason, I
Healthcare
don't
guy,
even remember his name.
United Healthcare guy. He allegedly had come up with the idea to do an AI that denies claims, right, under a certain amount, or with like within a certain threshold, it's supposed to automatically deny a claim. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's actually true. I heard that was never like debunked or proven true either way. So, but it actually kind of lends credibility to it, and I'm not
Yeah.
surprised.
Well, what they're saying is like it just I love demonstrating the difference of how different people interpret information because now it's like normal people saw that assassination and were horrified by the realization that such a technology could even exist. Not necessarily surprised because I think at least millennials and younger are already pretty cynical of uh, pharmaceutical and insurance agencies.
True.
But then the other side, which was policymakers, investors, and financiers, went, holy shit, we can do that? That's a great fucking idea. Why don't we get this legally codified and then level half the country so we can build data centers long enough to build it?
That's so
By the
crazy.
way, I don't know if folks are aware of this, but the energy and resource requirement to build data centers is fucking massive. Your entire world is going to become one giant industrial parking lot. I mean, it kind of already is, but even more so than it was.
Interesting.
And then all the radiation will fry your brain. The 5G's coming for you.
I don't think they're worried about it. Most people
No,
don't have much
I
of a
think
brain left anyway.
I think most people would welcome having their brain fried. In fact, I'm probably going to leave this conversation and then go find something to at least temporarily fry my brain so I can relax.
Escapism.
It's the bedrock of democracy.
I've heard that. I've heard Americans are treatler rights.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard for me to enjoy all the luxuries of a Western culture if I have to constantly dwell on what we did to get here. So I'd rather not. I mean, I do really like watching reality TV instead.
So there's a bunch of stuff here. Like I said, I'm gonna post the link. It's getting late.
Yeah,
so
I think
let's just touch on immigration and we can kind of close out.
Okay. Do you want to take the lead on this one? Because I feel like I definitely took the mantle on the last two.
Sure. We kind of touched on it already. So actually, you touched on it quite a bit. You had already talked about ICE members being brought into cities. There's like a lot of legislation and lawsuits being filed right now to push back on some of these deportations that are happening. I know that a lot of Republicans are just clamoring. They love it. They're chomping at the bit to get rid of as many of these people as possible. You've got Fox News that's selectively cherry picking exclusively the worst stories. Like the one story that Fox News was blasting on the airways for the last 2 days was there was, I guess, an immigrant that had come in. He had been deported before. Instead of arrested, they deported him. Okay, so just to be clear, these people, when they do crimes, they are deported. Okay, I think you should just arrest them, or So, this guy put a gun in a woman's mouth while he was assaulting her, like sexually. So that's the story that Fox has been running with like crazy. They're like, oh look, like Trump is saving America. We're getting rid of all these rapists and murderers and all these things, right?
It's all about protecting women is like the language that they're using for the
super
bills that they're
ironic.
passing. It was the Lake and Riley
I was
Act.
just gonna say.
It was the Protection of Women Against Harmful Criminals Act. It was all this other bullshit. Meanwhile, simultaneously, they're also passing a direct passage from Project 2025 to enforce something called the Hyde Amendment, which means that the government now can't give you any funding for anything related to an abortion. So, spare me your attempts to protect women because it's so obviously hollow.
Let me.
Um,
We're gonna touch on that real quick, and then we'll pivot back to the immigrant thing. I want to show the map that I found earlier, even though it's outdated. It's from last year, so it's not the worst thing in the world in terms of outdate, but I imagine that it's only grown. So, 1 second. So the Hyde Act, you were telling me, is basically the act where the only way to facilitate an abortion is in case of saving the mother's life, right?
at least in terms of how it refers to government funding the process. So
Right.
the main focus of the Hyde Amendment is to prohibit the use of HHS funds for elective abortions. But the reason that it's becoming an issue now is because back in August of 2022, Biden signed an executive order that essentially allowed the government and certain departments to overlook the Hyde Amendment. And so this is an executive order being shot back across the bow, so to speak, to coerce that back into reality.
Right. And now Republicans will tell you there's only, as of last year, there was only 14 states that had a ban. But if you look at how many states are in orange, those are the Hyde restrictions. That's effectively like a soft ban. So how many states do we have here? 17 states own funds to pay abortions and Medicaid enroll. Okay, so blue states, you'd have to be in like blue, as you called it, a sanctuary state to actually get this done. So
even though the two aren't related, I also do find a bit of irony in all of the blue regions pretty much are the same regions that I highlighted. They're about to get fucking leveled by the federal government.
Yeah.
Northeast, West Coast. Oh look, there's Alaska too.
Well,
but we're definitely not going to use government funding as a weapon against you for our beliefs.
I was just going to say political retribution.
Yep.
So.
Yep. No, it's but it's to protect women, obviously, because we're very pro-life, so long as that life is an unborn fetus. Meanwhile, the lives of people that are even seeking legal entry into the country because they used an app that grants them a temporary parole period in the country while they wait for their hearings, which are bureaucratically delayed months, years back. That app and that support has been shut down, and these people are now going to be forcibly removed from the country, whether the country they're coming from accepts them back or not. So even if you do try to do the process the legal way, fuck you, get fucked. You don't look like we want you to look like, and we don't want you in the country. And then we're going to claim that it's all in the name of safety and national security, because that's kind of the American way. Xenophobia disguised as security.
A-based. I'm kidding, obviously.
No, it's just, again, it's one of those things that you kind of, I think we all knew that it was coming, but I think not a lot of people were quite emotionally prepared for the rapid response that it's already getting. I just got a text message that I won't share the details of here because I don't really want to fully disclose our location geographically. But the ICE presence is being felt within 10 miles of my home currently.
Damn.
Which is crazy. Because you and I both know the area that we live in, and that doesn't sound right.
No,
I'm getting it.
Well, we talked about it. I told you this was on the horizon.
Well, apparently the horizon's here already. Like, the street that I live off of, there's been sightings of ice agents.
Fucking wild. Well, one of the like this. So there's a school that I'll volunteer at, right? and help with kids
Hmm.
with debate and things like that. They sent out a newsletter to everybody, and they were basically saying, "Hey, if ICE shows up at your house, if ICE tries to talk to you at school, you like know your rights." And there's like a link to the ACLU, which details everybody's rights. They're like, don't meet them anywhere, don't answer any questions. So I feel like this was kind of unfortunately a foregone conclusion. This was going to happen.
Yeah, I think again, it's just like the rapidity of the response. I think is kind of what is putting me. I don't know if on the back foot is the right way to describe it, but a little bit. I'm a little bit alarmed at how fast and how expansive it already is. Like I
Yeah.
assumed that this was going to be the response at the southern border, but the fact that it's happening where I am already, and plenty of places in the Midwest and stuff like that's fucking crazy to me. Um, yeah, no, it's insane. It's disheartening, especially when you. It's just granted this is a really long tangential conversation that we've kind of run out of time for, but it's really sad to look families in the eyes and tell them that even though America spends trillions of dollars a year convincing the rest of the world of how fucking star spangled awesome it is, as soon as you try to set foot on our land, we're gonna fucking arrest you. And that's the best case scenario you could have. Because you know who you're gonna see now? They just deployed the fucking Marine Corps to the southern border.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps of all people. Like who signed up and laced their boots up for that? That's what I want to know. I want to know who joined the Marines, because I've known Marines and I know Marines who are currently Marines. I don't know a single one of them that would be jazzed for that assignment.
Yeah, imagine the guy to your right or left who's your battle buddy, and you gotta fucking deport his parent. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things that, without going into specifics or anything for obvious reasons, we're going to find out in the next 4 years who has morals and codes that stand up to adversity and who doesn't. And what's funny is that there's a lot of people who are already answering that question for you.
True.
And I want people to know that while we obviously have a clear and present danger from a specific source of people, don't forget those other people either. Don't forget the people that showed you that they weren't willing to actually fight for other people's rights. Because, I mean, given my demographic, I'm probably not going to be as adversely affected by any of these policies as other people, by even potentially yourself. It doesn't fucking change anything about how I'm going to respond to them.
But those are your epistemic values.
Yeah.
So,
And it's just like, again, like I was saying, if you say those things but you don't actually abide by them and you don't act upon them, then they're not values. They're not things that you actively care about. What's the point in building a society of superior morality if you are willing to throw it away at the sign of trouble?
I agree. I'm gonna post this in the description after we are done streaming. The ACLU, on the front of their website, they have a bunch of different articles leading to your rights as a citizen or even as an undocumented immigrant. So it covers like the DEI stuff and being put on suspension. It covers your rights when it comes to being, interrogated by ICE. It talks about all these different things that are occurring right now. So I will make sure to include it in the description because we don't really have time to go over it now.
Yeah, and I have a few other resources that, for the sake of protecting their anonymity, I'm not going to post on here openly, but I have some resources that kind of tangentially help aid those who might be affected by some of these policies. If you're interested in any of those, you can message me privately and I'd be happy to share them with you.
Where can people find you?
Uh, Begrudgingly, I am on X currently. It's just at Hoomdini, um, because I want to make sure that I'm getting that, like I kind of saying, making sure you're staying informed in real time with information. Um, I'm also on other social media cesspools like Reddit.
A
My Reddit username is the same as my YouTube and Discord, DLC Hoomdini. That's DLC in all caps. Um,
I'll have
Hoomdini
you
is
I'll have you link me your profiles, and then I'll also put them in the description.
perfect. Yeah, I'll make sure to link that. Like, I'm not on a ton of socials. I haven't quite jumped onto things like Blue Sky yet because I kind of have mixed feelings about Blue Sky, being like a, I don't know, ideological.
It's a safe
Uh,
haven for cowards. You can say it.
yeah, exactly. Like, I know that they're gonna tell me that it's all well intended, but it feels like taking those ideals and then removing yourself from the controversy and from the conflict. So I'm not on there yet, but I think it would probably behoove me to at least have a profile on there so I can see what's going on and what people are talking about. But
Yep.
um,
And then
yeah,
criticize them for not being in the fight.
100%.
And then for me, I will include my YouTube channel in the description. I've cleared all my videos and stuff off. I do like a lot of political commentary, pop culture stuff, but specifically kind of around how politics affects like Black Americans, even some Black immigrants. So if you care about any of that stuff, you can always find me at skillmonger_GG. So yeah, be growing that. We'll be growing your Twitter or X, I guess, profile begrudgingly.
Yeah, great. Our video just got taken down from one fell swoop.
Yep, I'm being deported. You're being deported.
Yeah,
Great.
and if you want to send either of us any feedback, hate mail, anything like that, make sure to send it to 1100 South Ocean Boulevard in Palm Beach, Florida. That would be the fastest way to get your message across to me. So if you have a lot of things to say about what I'm feeling, make sure you direct it in that direction.
That's a lot more positive than I thought you were going to take that.
Certain things I didn't want to say because I'm just worried about how it would tangibly be responded to.
Yeah.
All right, fine. If you want to put rice in an envelope and send it somewhere,
Oh my
it...
god! Oh my god! Nope. Nope. Nope.
oh, sorry.
Nope.
Maybe somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle of where we were.
That is hilarious. So all the Elon stuff is crazy. I do have a video I think would be hilarious to kind of, because we talked about a lot of heavy stuff, kind of end on a positive note. Well, funny note. What do you think?
Yeah, more levity maybe.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty great.
I'm gonna save everyone from my my rant on China for now, but it's coming. I promise you.
Oh, bro, I got a fat rant on Taiwan. I was so mad when you sent me that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a part of, I think, our next live stream combined with whatever happens in real
Absolutely.
time that we have to react to. But it was on the docket for tonight, and we just ran out of time
Yeah.
because we're kind of getting back into it. So bear with us on that, but that is coming because we both immediately launched into almost like, I don't want to call it a shouting match because we were in agreement with each other, but it just escalated so viscerally from one mention, um, and it launched from there. It's something you and I both talked about a lot, so I think we definitely have a lot more to say on it.
Yeah. We'll definitely need more time. So we'll plan for that next time. But let's do this video. I think this is a prime example of why nobody, especially black people, wants to go to fucking Mars with Elon. Okay.
Oh, Jesus
Yeah, it's
Christ.
great. Give me just a second. We're gonna do this. It's awesome. Oh, is it not working?
If you're uploading it to the live, there's just a hair of latency, so there it is. Well, there's a video.
There we go.
Like I feel like that's not a
Oh,
smart thing.
hold on.
What do you mean?
Audio is super low. Hold on a second. I love this video so much. Give me one sec. I don't know why that sounded so low. All right, let's try it now.
Shout out to VLC Media Player, one of the goats of software.
Fucking based. So fucking based. All right.
I don't want to be the first nigga on Mars. Like, I feel like that's not a smart thing. What do you mean? So imagine it's me, one Asian cat, a group of white people, and like some British bitch, and I'm the only nigga on the shuttle to go to Mars. So as soon as we leave Earth, whatever you feel about the other people on the shuttle just goes. So we could get to Mars and they just like, nigger. And I'm like, what?
You train with these people for 5 years, you get up there, and then the nigga just goes like, we doing slavery again.
I'm like, wait, I was like, I met your kids.
Wait, who you gonna tell? The judge? There ain't no judge up here, bitch.
I'm like, you're seriously
Like,
gonna
it's not the
enslave?
Constitution.
Like,
There ain't no Constitution.
go terraform, bitch. I'm like, what?
Well, you can't be racist in space. Who said? Who said we can't be racist?
What are you
in
gonna
space?
do about it?
Nigger.
I love that video. Did I lose you?
No, there's just a bit of a delay, so I'm watching it a little bit behind where you are.
Oh, got you.
Jesus Christ, dude. Oh, I feel like that's so true, though. Like, I would be terrified. I would never get on that shuttle. I don't want to be on the shuttle, and I'm a white male.
But yeah, I thought it would be a little bit of levity.
Oh, yeah.
To end on.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I'm gonna leave from this heavy-footed conversation and probably go find something to lighten my mood a little bit before I go to sleep.
That's fair.
And I think
I'm gonna
that's
see if I have hard A in the house.
there you go. I think that's definitely an important thing that I want to remind people of is that levity is going to be an absolutely crucial element to getting through these times. So, there are times when you may feel that it's not appropriate and it doesn't accurately represent the world around you, but you have to look out for yourself and for people around you as well. Because if you're not monitoring those things, it makes it a lot harder to get past whatever we're about to be thrown at us. So just make sure to remember that because I know for me specifically, if I'm one of those people that doesn't ever address it, I get stuck in these modes and I got to pull myself out of that. So maybe I'm just projecting from myself, but I definitely think it's vital for
No,
people
I think
to.
that's really good advice. So, all right, I think that's it for us for tonight. Thank you to the viewers that we had. Thank you to anybody that ends up watching the VOD. We're a little rusty in terms of our, I guess, synergy, and we're completely new to live streaming. So we're refining our craft as we go. So, in the meantime, be kind to each other. And is there anything you want to tell everybody to end on?
Yeah, be kind to each other, stay safe, stay informed, and
Right. And we'll see everybody next Friday.
Yep,
All
plan
right.
on it.
Until then, take care, stay safe.